Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe right now. Leave a comment on the video. Share it with your friends. It's also a podcast, 3 and Out, wherever you listen with me, John Middlekauff, Apple, Spotify. We have you covered, as well as thevolume.com. We have merch. Check out. I got 3 and Out hats right now. Thevolume.com. Search the podcast. Buy some merch.
I really want to dial in on Brock Purdy. So I saw a stat that was interesting. I don't think you deny this. 5 of the 8 playoff quarters for Brock Purdy have not been good, and they've been a favorite, and they've been at home. So Brock Purdy's rate of negatively graded dropbacks in the playoffs has been 23%. So that's bad. That would have been the worst in the NFL of any quarterback with 200-plus dropbacks. He's been bad in the playoffs. He's had a couple of great late drives. Mahomes, who had a much, much lower, a very good negative dropback rate, right? Very few. It's been even better in the playoffs. It's like 6% to Purdy's 23%. And he's gone on the road twice against, Green Bay's defense and Detroit's defense. I mean, one's crap. The other one's average. Buffalo's defense and the Baltimore defenses, especially Baltimore's, much better than Green Bay and Detroit. So Mahomes, against much better defenses, on the road has almost no negative dropbacks, almost none. Purdy at home against bad defenses has an egregiously bad negative dropback rate. So my take is, I think this Kansas City's defense is elite. Most people just don't know anybody outside of maybe Snead and Chris Jones, but they can frickin' move. If Purdy struggles, and I like the under as my favorite bet in this game. I think it's low scoring. If Purdy struggles, really coughs it up, could you argue Kyle goes, he got outplayed for 3 quarters by Love, outplayed by 2.5 quarters by lousy in the Super Bowl, that Sam Darnold would go into camp battling Purdy and whoever played better would win that job?
Well, I think that is a big swing guy for him because I was texting with some people. Sam just signed a 1-year contract, and the 49ers love him, but so does Adam Peters, who's now in Washington. And, maybe depending on who you draft, you bring him, you pay him a little bit more money, you kind of make him the bridge quarterback. You let that guy kind of ease into his NFL career. So that is a team to watch when it comes to Sam Darnold. I do think the 49ers are very, very loyal to this guy. They really like him. Like, one thing happened when Trey Lance was pretty bad for them in his starts. The team never really gravitated toward him. And when I say the team, I mean their star core players. That group, he's beloved in the locker room, Brock Purdy. And that buys you a lot of juice with this team. Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. These guys are not going anywhere, and they're some of the best players in the league. The other thing is Kyle is, even in the struggles, when you can run his offense, that was the problem with Trey. He had to change his offense, and he's like, my whole thing is my offense. So that's why they loved Purdy, and I'm sure you saw the story. Jed York told him that Kyle, in 2022 in training camp, said, hey, I think the best, this is 2 weeks in, the best quarterback on the roster is this guy we just drafted in the 7th round. And they're like, what? And he wasn't making that up. Now, I was going to those practices. It's hard to tell because he's running with the threes, but they kept him on the roster for a reason. The coach really liked him. The rain situation in Green Bay, he was really bad. I do think the second half against Detroit, I thought their defense really let him down. The 49ers are an offensive team. When you go back to the last Super Bowl these two teams played, the Niners were a defensive team and the Chiefs were an unreal offensive team. Well, look at this year. The Niners are the 3rd scoring offense. They're very dependent on Brock playing well and scoring a lot of points because their defense the last couple of weeks, it's really been leaking oil for a while. And the Chiefs are the number 2 overall scoring defense. So this is actually a clash between the 49ers offense and the Chiefs defense, but their offense goes as Brock plays. So when he's a little off, their defense is no longer dominant. So yeah,
it's not.
For them to win the Super Bowl, to me, he's got to be way better than he was because I don't have as much faith on the defense. John Lynch was just, their defensive coordinator was saying they were embarrassed by the effort in the NFC Championship game. So the defense is going through some stuff. Now, when Deebo's healthy, they just have so many options, and you can run the ball with Christian McCaffrey. They throw a lot of quick screens. They just need Brock not to turn it over, and that's the one thing. He's had a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and when he was really humming throughout the season, when they were beating the shit out of Dallas and Philly, he was not doing that. So it just depends what guy you get. And this gets back to, you and I will, I'm sure when the draft gets close and when the draft happens, the character of these guys, the mindset of these guys. Brock's a pretty serious dude. So like he's gone through like it's been a rough little stretch for him. But I think they like where he's at mentally. And I have actually more faith in him, the guy and the wiring, than I do sometimes the physical attributes. Obviously, he's a pretty
Yes.
good runner, but
Well,
his arm, can be a little hit or miss sometimes.
yeah, I always said Dak Prescott's intangibles are an A. His tangibles are like a C plus B minus. Like he
Yeah.
moves out. I mean, he really throws an average ball. I think the other thing with Brock Purdy, if I was a Niner fan, I'd be a little concerned is Andy Reid and Spags 2 weeks. Is that Purdy rain struggled, road not as good. Big games, he's been a tad tight. People also, John, they have more film. You got a lot on Brock now. Whereas with Garoppolo, we knew his limitations. That's why I think Brock Purdy moving is essential because it doesn't matter how much film you have. If you can move, you can move. You don't know when it's coming. But I do think Spags, and I think the Chiefs have the best corners in the league. I think if they can generate a pass rush, if I was facing Purdy, my takeaway would be crowd Debo, take out the bubble screens, be prepared for him. Don't let him run. Brock on play action stuff. Stop the run. Take your chances with Ayuk over the top. If he beats you, he beats you. But take those bubble screens away from Debo or he's a train downhill. I don't know. I don't think San Francisco is going to generate a ton of offense. You've acknowledged that San Francisco's pass rush is
hasn't been playing well. Oh.
It's kind of hit and miss outside of Bosa.
I think ideally Kyle Shanahan at his core is wired like a guy from the 80s or the 90s, like his dad. He wants to run the ball. And they run the ball to do two things. Establish just a physical, set the tone physically and prove that we're tougher than you. And then their entire passing game is off that. All the play action stuff that leads to a lot of easy completions. It's why when they're successful running the ball with McCaffrey, their offense can look pretty easy because guys get wide open because you're biting on the run. And then guys, they have so much talent with their offensive weapons. When you can slow down the run, it throws them off a little bit. So to me, it kind of starts with Christian McCaffrey. It's why a lot of people are saying he was the MVP throughout the year because he is. He's one of the best players in the league. They said something on the AFC Championship game. It was either Nance or Romo that the Chiefs led the league this year in batted passes at the line of scrimmage, like their defensive line. But what happened a couple times against the Lions? Hutchinson's like 6'7", batted a couple balls down. Do they bat 4 balls down? Well, if you only get 28, 30 pass attempts, or, Kyle ideally would be 25, that's 4 wasted passes, right? Or does it happen once? Because sometimes Kyle's schemed pass is why it's going to work, either as a big first down or an explosive play. If you tip that ball, and you can with Brock because he's a shorter player, it can throw you off. That's some little thing to keep an eye on because they bat a lot of balls, and Brock has some balls to get batted. So do they try? I don't ever understand why Kyle doesn't move it. Now, his offense is not a drop back passing game where they do like sprint options, but I would try to get him on the move a little bit more. But that's not really part of the Shanahan, operation.